Welcome to day 3 of Pi World 2019. Very similar than last year. What we are going to do is bring up our product team and a bunch of our development staff, really walk through what a day in the life of the Pi system is, and as we go through that, pointing out the enhancements that we've made over the past year. We have a great agenda for you today. We have 3 tracks. We're trying this new format to really give you some guidance. What you see on stage here today will most likely dictate where you go throughout the day and what tracks that you should attend. We went through this in our keynote, Greg and I. We are using the Pi system to optimize our building operations and our critical assets, not just in our headquarters, but in all of our offices. And it's really teaching us how to operate a production Pi system. And again, as we learn those things, we will be giving them back to you. And here was really the summary that we went through on the keynote. Our old building, 26 kilowatts a square foot. I had many people come up to me and say, wow, that's a lot of energy. And yeah, that's why we moved. And then the new building, 8.5. So without any ado, I'll be walking around. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be asking it to the team if they miss anything. But with that, I'd like to bring up Gregg Blanc to go through the problems and the challenges and why we actually deployed the Pi system in SLTC. Greg?
All right, thank you, Chris. Do I want that? I do. All right, cool. Oh, cool. Wow. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 3. It must be day 3 because the first row is empty. But there's people in the back, so that's good. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for really helping us learn more about your use cases. We hope that we have a productive agenda. Like Chris said, today is about deeper dives. And we know it's important to you because the fire marshal shut down some of our talks yesterday because they were too crowded because it was so exciting to many people. That's right, fill in the first row. So the next 82 minutes, I'm just going to cover some of the highlights we didn't get to cover in the keynote. So it's not going to be a deep dive into this because luckily my lovely and talented product management staff will help guide our journey through the various things that we've been investing in. So all the way from pervasive data collection, through the Pi system, through the integrators, through OSIsoft cloud services, you're going to get a short tour, and this will help you plan your day. So if you want to go to deeper dives, you want to go to best practices, you'll get a little bit of highlights, and they're going to try and attract you to their talks. OSIsoft is a customer, like we said, and we are basically working on the efficiency and the post-commission review because we want to apply the things we learned to the new buildings that are showing up on the campus. And we've been using manageability and Pi Vision to centralize all that UI work. We've been using cloud services to aggregate the data. We've been deploying new connectors and use cases. And this will happen throughout the next year. We will be doing more of this IoT provisioning work, and we will be applying our different analytics and that sort of thing so we can learn more and bring them to you next year. So we talked about some of the use cases already and how our deployment has changed into incorporating those things. You'll see stuff about the window tinting so we can reduce the bad luck that we've had, the proving that there's hot air in conference rooms. And actually, we have CO2 measurements in some of the conference rooms. Some of the most interesting data is watching the CO2 change. You could almost detect occupancy based on the level of CO2 in the room, so that's kind of interesting. Then our slurry pumps that we use there to keep our developers caffeinated, our critical operations working at speed, and taking action before it's too latte to take action. Sorry, it's in there. It's in there. So we did a whole bunch of work in the IoT space to provision a network and get our security deployment there because we're running pre-release software. We definitely don't want that on our critical operations network. So that's why this network looks a little complicated. It's because we really want to highlight how we can get some feedback, put it into the backlogs, and have product managers kind of work with team leads and so forth to get our products built so that we know what they're doing in the wild and then you know what we're doing because we can be a reference customer. So this is an interesting one that Chris has alluded to. That was our original metric, and it's 8.85 kilowatts per square foot. And then that was improved And now we're at 8.4, so we're actually under that design limit. And we want to take the things that we've learned and apply it to that new building. So the new building has actually been built, and there's tenants starting to occupy it, but we've made corrections to many things there in order to do kind of the next level operations management of that building. So that's kind of cool. We'll talk about the heating and cooling that was happening at the same time, say on vacations, like July 4th, which is a holiday in North America, or well, in the US portion of North America, and how we identified that. We talked about some of the view glass and how that doesn't always work the way that's intended, or it maybe dims too early or too late, and that's been troubleshot both with the control systems, so the backnet controllers, and then also those IoT devices. And when you have some pain in your glass, you'd want a single pane of glass in order to monitor those operations. And so that's what we're using Pi Vision for. And we've tested out the ad hoc experience, which you'll see later in this talk, and how we've overlaid all that information into one set of screens. HVAC performance is probably our building's biggest load. So this is the one we want to manage and maintain. And it's interesting to look at the startup time, so when the building comes alive and when it starts cooling, and how we can reach those set points. It turned out that we actually had to adjust our set points because some of the design of the building, we could never actually meet those set points. So we actually took, our solution was to make the thermostat not actually go down that low or up that high. So that's how we fixed it. But there are things that we also have done. We've installed new doors to stop airflow from going between, the first floor is very, very open. And there's a cafeteria, a cafe, there's training rooms and so forth. And we actually put in a door to stop some of the airflow so that the zones could reach temperature. So we made capital improvements in order to adjust some of the energy management concerns that we had. We also deployed a partner product called PICE. It is a high-fidelity way to monitor our power consumption. It uses phaser technology. It uses the energy management. It incorporates information from our building management system and the utility in order to help us run the building more properly. And that will come into play even more when we've got solar panels and batteries and that sort of thing. One of the interesting things is you can see like spikes in Sunday, which there shouldn't really be too many people there, and you see these odd behaviors. So it helps us troubleshoot, what's going on, what's opening, what's closing. We bring in outside air to cool the building when it's nice outside. We had to shut all that down, of course, during the fires from Paradise and from the car fire and those things. So we actually had to shut all that down. It makes the building work very differently. And so we basically had to change how we worked. This is one of my favorite slides because in the red zone, we were taking utility information from PG&E, and we were comparing our actual power consumption and noticing that the bill was off. So we actually went back to PG&E and said, hey, we'd like a little bit of that money back because we can prove that we didn't use that much energy. And we didn't tell them about the green one where we actually were using more energy than what they were billing us. So we didn't tell them that one, but we told them this other one. On average, maybe they were okay, I don't know. And you did also hear about the building performance and how we're trying to compare ourselves with other large buildings in the San Leandro area. So that DER NetSoft example that Chris was talking about, he was pointing out that we were comparing our campus building to another really large building from Kaiser Permanente and seeing how we were doing so we can be a little energy community. And then, of course, using OSIsoft Cloud Services, they can share their data securely so we aren't looking at all their energy management data. We're just looking at the energy management data they want to share with us. So I would like to then hand this over to, because we have so many more slides, and do some real PowerPoint work and demo video stuff with, hand it over to Abbas Abuwala, who is our product manager for pervasive data collection, connectors, and interfaces. Abbas.
All right, this is going to be tricky. Thank you, Gregg. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abbas Abuwala, if that's not legible enough. And I'm a product manager, as Gregg mentioned, with our data acquisition suite of products that includes the Pi interfaces and Pi connectors. To kick it off, at OSIsoft, we understand that using data to digitally transform a business is a journey. It's not a one-step process, it's a journey. And in order to have a successful journey, you need to be able to collect all the relevant data in a very hassle-free manner. And it is our goal to make sure that we provide you with a suite of data acquisition products that allows you to to collect data in a very uniform and standardized manner. And that kicks off with our strategy, which is close to home with OSIsoft developed Pi interfaces and Pi connectors, which allow you to collect data from your traditional systems like the SCADAs, the DCSs. Next up, we have our edge data store, which serves the purpose of a mini historian sitting at the edge, which allows you to aggregate, filter, and visualize data right at the edge. And last but not the least, we have our OSIsoft messaging format technology, colloquially known as OMF technology, which allows you to, as an organization, be creative and create your own custom data acquisition solutions, keeping your very precise and very specific needs in mind. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that it is our goal to make sure that each one of you working with data ends up feeling like Bill and not Milton, all right? Office Space jokes, funny. All right, so you must be sitting there wondering, well, that was funny. Maybe for some people, nah, it was OK. But what does this mean for you and your organization? Glad you asked. Thank you. With our latest connectors technology, the Pi connectors, we allow you to not only automatically discover the contents across your data source, but we also allow you to easily select and pick only the relevant data for your specific business needs. We also understand that growing enterprises have needs around security and flexible deployment, and those have been addressed using our Pi connectors technology as well. So how do we at OSIsoft reap what we sow? We use a backnet connector, as Gregg alluded to a few minutes back, to collect our building management data from a BMS system. Our UFL connector is used to parse energy consumption data that is provided to us by a utility provider, who Gregg must have slightly cheated, so I'm not sure if they'll continue doing that in the future, but let's hope. And our IT operations finds great value in using the Redfish connector to monitor servers within the data center. To speak to that a bit more, our IT operations in particular finds great value in using the Redfish connector for two big reasons. One, the cost savings it provides us by allowing us to not use these power strips. And for anyone who's not familiar with these power strips, these things could cost upwards of $2,000. And in each data center, you require several of these to effectively monitor the power consumption around the data center. So that's one big benefit. The second big benefit our IT operations gets from using the Redfish connector is they can very accurately identify the hotspot zones in a data center, because using the Redfish connector, they are now able to collect very precise thermal data. So I love this quote. You live in the present, but you have to look towards the future. So what is OSIsoft doing to create its own future? As a company, OSIsoft, over the last couple of decades, has provided absolutely robust and resilient data acquisition solutions. And we are very proud of that. But we understand that with changing times, the concept of a plant or site is gradually changing. It no longer only denotes this massive, big, multi-million-dollar facility with these large systems. It could denote a very small site, a very, very small facility with probably just a single unit. So, for example, let's take a look at this image. I want you guys to take a few seconds, look at this image carefully, and just guess what do you think is in this image. I'll give you a few seconds. That's OK. All right, time's up. So I'm sure a lot of you let your imagination run wild, which is great. Good job. But I can bet not a lot of you must have thought electrical substation. Show of hands, how many did? Wow, okay. The bet was for a penny, so I owe you probably 10 pennies total. So, funny story. Actually, in a conversation with one of the customers, they told us that from an economic standpoint, it didn't make much sense to even install a fence around some of these smaller facilities, let alone expensive industrial equipment such as RTUs or industrial gateways. However, we at OSIsoft strongly believe that you, as a user and customer, should be able to collect data from anywhere and everywhere. And holding that sentiment in mind, we are developing our technology to not only support these larger SCADAs and DCS systems, but to collect data from the edge as well. We are also expanding our technology through our OSIsoft messaging format to harmonize and unify the way in which our OSIsoft-supported end systems, which is the Pi server, the OSIsoft cloud services, and the edge data store, can consume this data in a uniform and harmonized manner. So that's a good segue into talking about what OMF denotes, or what it stands for. OSIsoft messaging format, simply put, is a message definition that allows you as a user to send data to any OSIsoft-supported end system. As I mentioned previously, it allows you as a customer to be creative and create these data acquisition solutions which might be very precise for your need, and there may or may not be an existing solution out in the market. OMF makes it very easy for any one of you who's a developer or a programmer or even has the slightest interest or inclination towards coding to pick a programming language of your choice, be it Python, C#, Java, JavaScript, you name it, whatever you want to pick, and pick a transport protocol, again, of your choice, HTTP, AMQP, MQTT, whatever you wish. And shape the message that conforms to this OSIsoft messaging format specification and send it to an OSIsoft-supported end system. And that end system will accept, collect, and store that message and adore it, just like any parent would adore their child. So, talking about another awesome product that enables these IoT scenarios. And earlier this week, I found out that Pat is not a big fan of the term IoT. So I have taken the liberty to coin a new term, which henceforth I should be calling PIoT, which of course, thank you. I wasn't expecting that, so that's a break of 5-10 seconds right there, which of course stands for pi over that thing. So moving on, talking about the product, which is Edge Data Store that I was referring to in the PIoT scenario. Edge Data Store, simply put, is a very lightweight and resilient historian that is capable of running on your non-traditional devices, which may or may not support Windows operating system. So think about your routers or your edge gateways or your data diodes. Edge Data Store also allows you to cater to use cases where you're trying to collect a smaller stream of incoming data, as opposed to your traditional data sources like the SCADAs or DCSs. We are trying to collect hundreds of thousands, millions of items at a time. So Edge Data Store allows you to get away from this rut of standing up a full-blown Windows operating system machine and installing the Pi server on it. You could just install this edge gateway on a very small hardware device and be up and running. The other big benefit it affords you is it provides a RESTful API using which you can conveniently manage and administer a lot of the applications that are remote, or a lot of the devices that are remote to you. And may or may not be reachable due to firewall constraints or physical proximity limitations. You know, just standing up here, a thought crossed my mind, and I want to try this. I'm going to propose an exercise, and I hope each one of you will partake in it. It's a very simple exercise, nothing crazy, nothing like the PyOT adventure stuff. All I'm asking you to do is close your eyes, tilt your head down, and think about any critical asset or any asset at your organization from which you would like to collect data, but you aren't able to right now. Or some kind of operational piece of data which is not available for you right now, but you really want it. I'll give you probably 5-10 seconds. Just think about it. I can see people who don't have their eyes closed, by the way. All right. OK, I hope you've given it some thought. All right. So this is where I would have hoped I had a physical device in my hand, which I don't. So I'll ask you to imagine further. Imagine this is one of the Raspberry Pi devices, which is shown right there at the bottom. For anyone who's seen one of these devices, in reality, it's very small. It's literally the size that I'm actually depicting right here. And it can almost fit in the real estate of my palm. Now imagine you as a user who has not been able to collect data from this really critical asset, which is several hundreds of thousands of dollars maybe worth. You can easily deploy Edge Data Store on that Raspberry Pi device right there and deploy a very lightweight OMF application pointed to this critical asset. And this critical asset, which was a black box just like a few days ago, is now lit up with all this amazing, high-fidelity, real-time streaming data, which is now accessible to you at your fingertips. And to think about it, this is afforded to you through a combination of a sub-$50 device and OSIsoft's Edge technology. So I would say that's pretty powerful. And there's a lot of scope here which you guys can go back and experiment with. All right, so moving on. Oh, I let the surprise out. All right, I'll do it regardless. So we at OSIsoft are using our technology to collect data from one of our most critical assets. And the joke's gone now because you've seen the critical asset is a coffee machine. And without us being able to keep this machine serviced and running all the time, our operations suffer badly. So what have we done? We've deployed these sensors around the building, and especially around the coffee machine area, which have an OMF. It has sensors which collects different parameters, different kinds of information. And it has an OMF application running on it that sends data to our OSIsoft cloud services and the Edge Data Store. And one thing that I didn't tell you guys is that the coffee machine is not owned by us. It's leased by us. A service provider has leased the coffee machines to us. Thus, it is very valuable for us as a user of that service and of that asset to be able to share this data with the service provider using our OSIsoft cloud services, who can then run analytics, data science on this data and identify any anomalies and basically do preventative care maintenance as required to keep the coffee machines up, as you can imagine. The other big value proposition is that it allows us to share this data locally with our OSIsoft facilities monitoring, our facilities managers, who use this data to draw insights into how many people drank coffee at a given day, how many cups were made, how many people, what was the foot traffic in that area. So they can make future decisions like, hey, do we want to install a new coffee machine? Or do we want to relocate these machines to a new area which can afford higher foot traffic? So this was just my attempt at painting a picture at what you guys, in the context of your organization and your asset, can achieve using our OSIsoft messaging format technology and the Edge data store. And to finally wrap it up, we have more talks happening today, and there are labs happening as well. And if anything that I've said in the last few minutes, if it piqued your interest, I strongly urge you to attend our talk happening later today at 2:30 p.m. in the Grand Ballroom A. So you can just stay here until 2:30 p.m. Don't leave. Lunch should be served here, so that should be OK. And well, the one good benefit, jokes aside, the one good benefit of that talk is we have 3 partners who are presenting, who will be showcasing how they've used our technology and developed these amazing, cool things. So if you're interested in checking it out, please come by later. And on that note, I invite Mana up on the stage to tell us more about PyServer 2018 SP2. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, everyone. Mana Afshari. I'm a strategic product manager at OSIsoft. So what I will walk you through, you heard from Gregg and Abbas what we're doing in our new building. And this is a Pi system. It needs maintenance. It needs upgrading. So for this talk, for a few minutes, I will walk in your shoes for a mile. So I have been assigned the role of maintaining the Pi system. I heard that a new version of the PyServer 2018 SP2, was released. And there are a lot of improvements that I would like to have it in our Pi system at our San Leandro Tech campus. So I want to upgrade, but any upgrade needs to be assessed. And I was assigned to this role 3 weeks ago. I don't have a test environment. I've never done any testing. I don't know what needs to be done. But from what I've heard, some of our team members are putting together some deployment templates and deployment scripts so that they can quickly spin up an environment in Azure. I've also heard that some of our team members at OSIsoft are putting some test scripts together. So all of these can help me. What I will show you next, it's not a live demo. It's a recorded demo of how I use the deployment scripts and deployed a test environment into our Azure subscription. So I will just first show you that on our Azure portal, we do not have any virtual machines created yet. This is a subscription that I will use, and I will create some virtual machines, and I will quickly spin them up using the scripts that we have. The scripts that I will use here, you will see the folder. It's called Azure Quick Start. It has a README file that once this is released, this is a work in progress, soon you will all be able to get access to it. It has a README file that shares with me what will be installed. It will tell me what are the prerequisites that I need to have in place, what service accounts are going to get created so that I can get prepared for it. So I'm already familiar with this. I read through it. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the process of deploying the environment. I will open up PowerShell and run the script that I want to run. The team has put together all of the templates so that it not only installs the Pi system silently, it will also put together all the VMs in the Azure that are needed. So I will go ahead and just run that script, which is called Bootstrapper. And what it will do, it will go through 3 steps of deploying 3 templates. One is the core, one is the backend, and one is the front end. Before going into the scripts, it will send all of the install kits that I downloaded. I had to bring that. It will put all of those install kits and any other artifacts that are needed, put it into a zip file and zip folder, and upload it into Azure. So what you will see once I start running it, it will go through those steps. I need to specify the subscription space in my Azure environment, and also the resource group name, and then give it a prefix for the virtual machines, and then run it. There are 4 accounts that I need to create. The first one is the domain admin account, which I will call it PyAdmin. The second one is a service account for PyAF server. The third will be a service account for analysis service. because all of these machines and services are going to be created and installed. And the last one will be for PiVision service. So once I put all of those in, the deployment script is going to get started. It will upload the artifacts, and of course I have fast-forwarded this recording. The whole deployment will take about 3 hours. And then the deployment of the core template is going to start. That's what is required, like the domain controller, having some of the, like the remote desktop that you want to have on a public network. All of those are going to get deployed. After about an hour, the core deployment is done, so it's going to go into the backend deployment, which is going to be data archive, analysis service, here we do not use the notifications, but if that was going to get deployed, that would also be added. These are all that are on a private network, so in order to get access to these machines, you need to remote desktop. After the backend template is deployed, then it goes into the front-end deployment, which is PiVision, and the things that are on a public network and will be able to easily get access to. So after 3 hours, the deployment is done. But out of those 3 hours, the only thing I needed to do was maybe a few clicks. The only time I needed to spend was the 3 minutes of the demo that you're seeing. And all of the virtual machines were created. All of those tests are automated. This is a work in progress, something that the team is working on. And we're looking at some deployment scripts and templates for AWS, Amazon Web Services, and also for Microsoft Azure. So now I have my test environment in place. One step is checked. This is just an architecture to show you the machines that were created, and when I was talking about public network and also private network, which machines I was referring to. So the machine is ready, but I still need to test the upgrade. For these scripts, we were using PyServer 2018, because 2018 SP2 was just released a few days ago. So I manually went ahead and upgraded the PyServer to 2018 SP2, and now I'm going to run the test scripts that, again, the team is working on to assess if the upgrade went well. So with that, again, we have a set of scripts that are for here, and we are referring to them as critical operation tests. I will, again, go to PowerShell, run the test script, and what it will do, it will create an AF database, a set of some of the tags, like a group of tags, some analyses, and then it will run some end-to-end tests considering all of the different products that I have installed, doing some maybe functional tests on the services that are running, making sure that after upgrade, everything is intact and nothing lost the functionality. So it asked me, I had to give it the name of all of the machines I have, what's the name of my data archive, what's the name of AF server, all of that. It will ask me, do you want me to create the AF database? And I said, yes, go for it. This is the test AF database. And now it's going through building that AF database that all of those test steps and activities are going to be done against it. So once that creation is done, it will go and the AF database creation is done. It will also go ahead and add some attributes, some tags, and then we'll run through all of the test steps. A demo of a test that passes is not fun. The best demo of a test is a test that fails. So look for a red line. So it started running, going through all of the steps that have been put together in the script. And I know that one thing failed, but I'm not too concerned about it because I know that it was supposed to fail. What the test scripts do, they check, right now the way we have developed them, they check for also the notification service. In the architecture that I deployed, there was no notifications. So it just cannot find it, and it's telling me the service, there's something wrong, we cannot find a service for notification services. So the test was done, and the report is gonna be prepared in the form of an HTML file. I will be able to open it, and the first thing it will show me is what failed. I will be able to go through the details and see why the failure happened. Below it, it will have the list of all of the tests that were done. The ones that passed, I will be able to expand each section and look at what was done, which parts passed and which parts failed. So I will be able to get all of the details here. Again, for the notifications, it checked the notification service and could not find it. So for those of you who are the Pi admins of your system, either you are like, that's your role, which means you have a very complex system that you need to manage, or this is something you have to do aside from your day job. You know that there's not many jokes to say about upgrading of a Pi system. But an upgrade that doesn't fail, that's the quiet enjoyment that we look for. That's the best day for a Pi admin, that everything upgrades without any failure. So with that, if anything you saw today, you liked it, stick around. I have a talk at 10:30 in the same room. I will share more details with you of not just the deployment scripts and test the scripts, but also more details on Pi Server 2018 SP2. And if you'd rather talk to someone about these details, stop by the booth, Pi System for Critical Operations. Our colleagues are there. The same colleagues who put together the test scripts are going to be there and would love to have a chat with you. With that, I will introduce Ryan, who is our Technical Product Manager for Pi Vision.
Thank you, Mana. So we tried this in Barcelona, get some informal data. Is that resonating with you, us providing you tests for when we release patches? Show of hands. Is that good? All right. Okay. Ryan?
Thanks, Chris. And thanks, Mana. As Mana said, I'm the Technical Product Manager for Visualization here at OSIsoft. So earlier today, Gregg showed you a few examples of how we're using Pi Vision to monitor our building and our headquarters out in San Leandro. I'm here today to go through the latest features that we're introducing in the upcoming release of Pi Vision 2019 and show an example of how we can use those to troubleshoot some issues at our headquarters building. So, the first major feature that we're introducing in Pi Vision 2019 is process book migration. This is something that we've heard many, many requests for, and in Pi Vision 2019, we'll be providing a path forward for process book displays. So you can take those displays that you've created and the investment that you've made over the years and move that forward to Pi Vision. So I'll go into more detail on this in just a moment. The second major feature is ad hoc trending. This is something that we've heard from our users was an important capability that was lacking in Pi Vision. So we use that feedback, and we've worked with our customers so that we can deliver this as a feature in Pi Vision 2019. So what exactly is this feature? I'm going to show a demo in a few moments so that you can understand exactly what it is, but it allows you to quickly analyze data from across displays and investigate issues on the fly. The third major update in this release is around security requirements. So if you're using the current release, you may have run into some extra security configuration required in order to get it up and running for certain features that we introduced. So in Pi Vision 2019, we've made changes to streamline the configuration, so it's much easier to get up and running with Pi Vision and ease that burden of upgrading and managing the system. So with that, I'll go into a little more detail into process book migration. So as I mentioned, many of our customers have invested in building monitoring displays in process book, and with Pi Vision 2019, we'll be enabling them to move forward. So here you see a display that we use for monitoring at our headquarters building. This display is for our AC unit that cools the building, and here you can see the display in process book, and then after it has been converted over to Pi Vision. So I'm just going to walk you through what this process was like and how the migration can be done. So the migration is really just done in 3 simple steps. The first step is to select the displays that you'd like to migrate. So here you can select individual files, or you can select entire folder hierarchies in order to migrate displays. So if you choose a folder, we'll look under that folder, as seen in the example, to see any displays contained in there in case you'd like to analyze and migrate your entire hierarchy at once. The second step, as I alluded to, is to analyze those files. So with the utility, what we're looking to do is to help you understand what's contained in your displays, what can be seamlessly migrated to PyVision, and what you might need to take a look at to see about any issues you might encounter during migration. So here you can see an example. In the analysis results, what we're doing is we're categorizing displays into those that can be fully migrated, which are the ones that can be seamlessly moved over. Every object contained in those displays can be migrated to PyVision. And the other category is can be partially migrated. These are displays that contain things that either aren't supported in PyVision or they aren't supported in a browser in general. Things like VBA or data sets today, these are things that will be flagged by the analysis so that you can take a closer look and decide if you're ready to migrate those displays at this time or not. The third step is to go forward and actually migrate those displays. So once you see the analysis results, you can choose which ones you're ready to migrate, select to migrate them, and then the utility will tell you if they've been migrated successfully. So now I'm going to dive into the second feature that I mentioned, which is ad hoc trending. So the new ad hoc trending capabilities that we're delivering in PyVision 2019, these allow you to dive into a real-time investigation of your operations and quickly discover insights. You can select data from across displays so that you can add them to the new ad hoc workspace that we're introducing, where you can analyze and identify the root cause of issues. So with this feature and with ad hoc trending, the focus is on the data and not on the configuration. And I'll go into this in a moment. But we've worked to optimize this workspace so that you can quickly pull in the data that you need and get answers without having to spend a lot of time in configuration. So with that, I'm going to jump into a quick demo and show you how this works. So this is one of the displays that we use for monitoring our headquarters building. As I showed just a few moments ago, it started off as a process book display. We've now migrated it into PyVision. It's a native display, full features of PyVision. I'm going to jump into a scenario where I'm a facilities engineer. I come in on a Monday morning, and I've been alerted that there was an issue with our cooling system over the weekend. So first thing I'm going to do is pull up this monitoring display for our cooling system and poke around, look at some data, and see what I can find. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select some of the temperature information on this display. So up here what I'm doing is I'm holding control and clicking the temperatures that are displayed on this graphic. I'm going to use the new feature, which is accessible in the upper right-hand corner with this button, to add these items to the ad hoc trending workspace. Now that I'm here, I'm looking at an hour's worth of data because that's what my display was configured for. I'm going to jump and zoom out to a week's worth of data so I can take a look at the weekend and compare it to the prior week to understand and see if I notice any issues. First thing, everything here is temperature data. So I'm going to quickly switch this to a single scale so that the data is normalized. Next, let's take a look at exactly what data it is that we're looking at. So here in purple, we have the outdoor air temperature. And as you can see, we're looking at a week's worth of data. The temperature rises and falls each day with the high and low temperature. In orange, we have the discharge air temperature. This is the temperature that's leaving the system. And then in blue, we have the indoor temperature. As you notice, it doesn't fluctuate all that much, so that's a good sign. The first thing I noticed when I'm looking at a week's worth of data is that in the beginning of the week, there was a pattern. And then once we get over to the weekend, so this is Saturday, this is Sunday. If we compare that to one of the other days of the week, for example, Friday, I noticed that there's a distinct difference. I can notice right away that something is different. So the main difference seems to be in the discharge air temperature, That was the orange trace that you see on the display. You can see that on Friday and on most days during the week, that reached a maximum of around 63. This is in degrees Fahrenheit. Saturday and Sunday, you can see that jumps up into the 80s. So it's clear something is different over the weekend. So next step, I'm going to jump back to my display. I'm going to pull in some more data so I can take a closer look and see if I can identify what the issue might be. I'm going to pull in some of our compressor data, as well as some information we have on the screen that shows the overall cooling load on the building. So again, all I did was hold Control, select the relevant items, and with a single click, I can add those to my ad hoc workspace. Now, I'm no longer looking at just temperature. So what I want to do is I want to switch to multiple scales so that I can see the relevant scales for each of the traces I have on here. Now, this is starting to get pretty busy. Again, I'm looking at a week's worth of data, but I really only need to zoom in around the weekend. So I'm going to do that. All right. So now what I have on the screen is about 3 days worth of data. I can see Friday, which has the normal pattern for a day. Then I have Saturday, and I have Sunday. So I'm just going to drop some cursors on the trend here to highlight the areas of interest, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, let's take a closer look at the information that I pulled in here. So I have information for compressor 1. Right, so our building has multiple compressors associated with the cooling system. So compressor 1, again, I'm going to start with Friday because that's a normal day. On the left-hand side, I can see that the compressor comes on and off throughout the course of the day. Now, once we get to Saturday, it goes on and off, but once it hits around noon, that compressor is off, and it doesn't come back on until, it looks like it starts to come back on early Monday morning. Let's take a look at compressor 3. So compressor 3, it has some similar information. So it's on throughout most of the day on Friday. On Saturday, on and off, but well before noon, it's off, and it's not coming back on. The next step is the third item that I brought in was our overall cooling capacity. Here, I'm seeing a very similar trend. Once we hit the afternoon on Saturday, we're not cooling the building, and I can see that at the very end of the trend, it comes back online early Monday morning. So with this, it's clear that there was an issue with our cooling system over the weekend. We need to take a look to understand what the problem is and go from there. So I'm not the one that's most equipped to do that. I am going to escalate this to another engineer, another facilities engineer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the sharing capabilities of the ad hoc workspace, which will generate a URL for me that I can copy, send it an email, let them know what I found, and they can pick up the investigation and go from there. That's a quick example of how you can use the new ad hoc trending features in PyVision 2019. Use the ad hoc workspace that we're providing to quickly analyze data and move towards root cause analysis. So, if you'd like to learn more specifically about process with migration, we have a talk this afternoon. That'll be at 3:30. That'll be here in this room. So in that talk, we're going to go through process with migration best practices, strategies for migrating. We'll migrate displays live, show you how they come over, show you some ways that you can manipulate them to make them look even better in PyVision. We had a visualization talk that went into a little more detail in PyVision 2019. That was yesterday. The recording is now available if you'd like to take a look. We'll be at the visualization booth in Golden Gate. Please stop by if you'd like a demo, like to ask some questions, or just learn more about visualization. And thank you for your time. With that, I'll hand it over to Joy Wang, who will talk to you about integrators.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Wang, and I'm one of the product managers here at OSIsoft. And today, I'm very excited to talk to you about Pi integrators and some quick highlights of what we've been working on in 2019. So just before we continue, can I see by a quick show of hands how many people in the room are using a Pi integrator today? Wow, awesome. Well, I hope to see many of you at our product talk later this morning. So continuing the story of different users at the San Leandro Tech campus, what we see is that Pi integrators actually can enable a variety of different use cases and perspectives. Starting with the executive perspective. Are we using energy efficiently at SLTC? What are the energy costs month by month? Our facilities management might ask, which room's heating units are malfunctioning and too hot? I'm getting complaints from floor 3, floor 6, where is it at? And our data science team might have questions about, how do the outside features affect the effectiveness of cooling units inside the building? I have all this data. Let's take a look at what we can find. So, how do we serve the needs of all these different users and their analytics projects? Let's take a look at some real outcomes. In the first one here, this is a classic use case enabled by the Pi integrator of data warehouse and reporting. And in this screenshot, we see it with Pi data in HANA environment. So what you see here is cleansed and prepared Pi data ready for analysis within your SAP HANA database. And so with that, you can join additional types of data sets like your financial data and your maintenance data to actually start taking a look at what's happening holistically and coming up with some process improvement ideas. And that often results in savings for your organization. This next use case here, this outcome, is situational awareness combined with the power of Pi and ArcGIS. So what you see here is actually a screenshot of a dynamically updating map powered by Esri. And this actual map here is the floor-by-floor topology of the San Leandro Tech campus. Right now we're looking at the 6th floor. It looks like all the rooms are red, but don't worry. No actual employees were harmed in the making of this screenshot. Turns out it was actually a Sunday, so we better look at our cooling units over the weekend here. But you see here, this type of analysis and joining of a geospatial and real-time data set actually enables you to see more than just room numbers and their statistics. You might see patterns like the 6th floor or rooms on one side of the building, and that leads to uncovering insights faster. And finally, one of the most recent use cases enabled by the Pi integrators is data science enablement. And here we actually have some results done by our data science team with Pi and Power BI. What you see here is a collection of bivariate analyses graphs, just taking a look at the outside air temperature, outside relative humidity, set point offset, and space humidity. How do each of these parameters contribute or not to the optimal operations of our facilities? So how exactly does the Pi integrator enable all these different types of outcomes? And it is through one simple statement. Pi integrators speed the process that brings trustworthy data to many unique analytics tools. Speeding the process means it's an easy-to-use UI, 3-step configuration process to easily prepare your data set for any type of analytics projects. Bringing trustworthy data means you're inheriting the context and data directly from your Pi system and continuing to sync that context and data as you get new updates. And the many unique analytics tools ensure that you can have a low-cost, low-risk approach to kickstarting some of these projects. And so now I'm going to show you a quick 47-second preview of what we're working on in our latest integrator, the Pi integrator for SAP HANA. So I'm going to start by showing you the end result here, which is a clean prepared data set in SAP HANA with evenly spaced timestamps and all the relevant attributes. How you get there is through the PyIntegrator web interface, showing you a plant hierarchy, data pattern of interest, and matches across your entire fleet. Once you have a data preview of what it will look like, you're ready to publish, in this case to SAP via an ODBC connection. And in 3, 2, 1, voila. You can refresh, see the data now in SAP HANA, and ready to begin the real fun work of analysis. So that was a very abbreviated demo. If you come later to the talk this morning, we'll definitely show more of how you can achieve that outcome and some fine points here. But I want to show a quick list of what's available today in terms of our product line. The 3 products here, Esri Integrator, PyIntegrator for Esri ArcGIS, PyIntegrator for SAP HANA, and PyIntegrator for Business Analytics. And quickly, I'm going to just shout out to our latest release a few months ago, supporting a broad number of services in Amazon Web Services, Redshift, S3, and Kinesis data streams. All right. Again, you have many resources available to you today. At the product booth, you can talk with our developers and product specialists to see live demos in action. And just a reminder, our product talk is at 11:30 with my colleague Elizabeth Amaral. And if you have not signed up for one of the hands-on labs, they're actually available all year long, and we have one for every product, BA, Esri, and SAP HANA. So thank you. I'll pass it off to my colleague now.
Well, good morning. My name's Janelle Minnick. I'm a technical product manager here at OSIsoft, and I am focusing on some of the cloud services work. There we go. And so what I'd like to do today is just talk to you a little bit about what you've seen over the course of this conference, kind of the behind the scenes of how we brought all that data together and how you can think about bringing your data together in OCS. So, if you haven't heard already, why should you use OSIsoft Cloud Services? There are a couple of really great reasons, I think. The first one is it makes your data very available. So no longer do you have to worry about your data being behind firewalls and VPNs and setting that stuff up. As long as you have access to the cloud, to the internet, you can take a look at that data. We also empower you to use the business analytics tools, things like Joy was mentioning, or data science is coming up later this year, so that you can take advantage of those enterprise scale analytics. And we allow you to connect this data to people not only in your organization, but also people that might be outside of your organization, because we support claims. So you can easily empower those users to access that data. If they have a Google account or a Microsoft account, it's very simple to set that up as well. But what I'd like to focus on this morning is the Pi to OCS. That's sort of my sweet spot here. So what is Pi to OCS? So first of all, has anybody been to the Cloud Services booth this week? Had a preview of this? No, okay, there's still time, you can go. But Pi to OCS is how we're gonna natively transfer the data from your on-premise Pi system up into the cloud, okay? So I like to think of it as something that's central, simple, and secure. Central because you can configure it centrally in our portal, our OCS cloud portal. So that means what you do is you manage the connection there. You can start and stop data transfer there. You can configure who has access to that data in your portal. It's simple. It's very easy to use. If you come to my talk later this afternoon at 3:30, I'd like to invite you all to come if you're interested. And I'm going to run through an actual live demo of how you would, a recorded demo of how you would connect your on-premise Pi system to the cloud. It takes about 5 minutes. It's very easy to do. That will run on-prem, and it is off-the-shelf software, so you don't have to worry about managing custom code and things of that nature. And as I mentioned, it is secure. We're employing the use of claims, so you can use Azure Active Directory, Google, or Microsoft accounts to enable access there. And then when we read the data on-prem to send it up, we're using your Windows accounts that you're very familiar with, and that's how we authenticate with the Pi server there. So just to close this slide out, the Pi to OCS is really our best of breed data transfer software that we've ever had. So if you're familiar, I bet some of you are familiar with Pi to Pi. Maybe some of you have used our connectors in the past. But this is really the next generation of that. It's very fast, very performant, and a native way to move that time series data. So that's a little introduction to Pi to OCS. Now what I'd like to do is just really highlight that our perspective on that is OCS is the place where you should be aggregating all of your important data from any of your Pi servers in your organization up there throughout your organization. So this slide just illustrates that you can have Pi servers anywhere and sending that data up as long as there's an internet connection there. So let's dig a little deeper into this architecture. So what you'll see at the bottom of that slide is your Pi server. That's the Pi server that you're running in your organization, or the many that you're running. Next to that, still on-prem, is a computer that would be running our Pi to OCS agent. And that's the computer that's going to need that connection up to the cloud. So Pi to OCS will read data from your Pi server and transfer that data up into the cloud through a secure connection into the namespace that you would like that data to all be together with. And once it's all in that same namespace, then you can do the data science or visualization that's coming soon. So in the demonstrations that you have been seeing this week from OSIsoft, we're actually using this. We've been mentioning this all week. We have actually running in San Leandro, Pi to OCS. It's got about 19,500 data streaming points coming in, and with history since 2018. And the same thing is happening in our Philadelphia office. So we've got just slightly fewer points, about 18,500 points coming in. So that building data that we've been talking about is all going up into cloud services. So what I would like to do is show you a little bit about what it will look like in that portal, in that central configuration that we've been talking about. You might have seen some slides like this earlier in the week, but basically what you'll have is you'll have a entry there for each connection that you have to your Pi system. And then I'm just zooming in on the right-hand side of the screen so you can really see the details of that connection. So you can see which server is connected to, whether it's registered in OCS or not, what version it is. And then on the lower part of that window, you can actually manage your data transfer. So you can see the search that you use to identify the tags to bring up into OCS. And you can start and stop that transfer. You can see that it is currently just bringing streaming data. And when we say streaming data, we're referring to newly archived events. All right? You might be wondering, what would it look like if we lost connection? You'll see a little orange indicator up there that will give you that information, and then you can quickly troubleshoot that as well. So I'm keeping my part short because what I would really like to do is invite you to come see our talk this afternoon at 3:30. We're going to have the full demo of how you would install the Pi to OCS agent, and as well as talk about some of the other use cases there. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Chad Chisholm. He's our program manager. He's going to talk with you more about how you can use the data once it's up in cloud services.
Hi guys, I'm Chad Chisholm, and my hands are really sweaty. Thanks to Janelle. Pi to OCS makes it really easy to connect your Pi system up to OCS with just a few clicks, and get to remember a few passwords. Once it's there, it's a configuration-only experience. It's really powerful, and the outcome is really valuable. What I'd like to talk about, I've got 8 minutes. I've got 4 things. So we're going to take a look at some data streams. We're going to look at some streaming data. Talk about identity briefly, and then how to get started. I've got a demo here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to start this video. Okay. Oh, is it going? Oh, as a preview of Liz. Okay, so I'm going to open up a browser here, and I'm going to go to cloud.osisoft.com. And I'm presented with three options. So as been mentioned many times this week, you can log in either with a Google account or with a Microsoft account. If you're over 40, that's called Hotmail, right? Or if you're not like a one-person shop, you can use your Azure Active Directory. I'm going to use the Azure Active Directory here. So a lot of times this is the easiest way to do it. You need to get your phone out because we support multi-factor authentication, which is going to happen, I'm sure of it. That's me, and I'm going to click and log in here. Totally doing this. This is totally not recorded. Yeah, so if you have multi-factor authentication enabled on your network, this will pass through. It's actually really nice because it's all decoupled. So you log in, and that's your own problem, and then OCS will take that identity from that system. So now I'm here in the portal. The first thing we're going to go do is take a look at one of the data streams that's brought up from Pi to OCS. What we see here on the screen, this is the API console. So this is a test framework, test harness for developers. To try out the API, to maybe author their own requests and see what the results look like. As we've used this more and more for demos and stuff, we've been adding rudimentary trending just to sort of validate that data's there. And this is some of the CO2 data that came in from a couple weeks ago in our San Leandro office. You can actually see the different spikes of people coming into different conference rooms. But the data shape of this stream looks a lot like a Pi system, a Pi point that you may be familiar with. Timestamp a value, and that value can either be a float, an integer, a string, that kind of stuff. And then like a system state code, if it's like shut down or point created, that kind of thing. You may have seen that over the last 30 years. We still have that here coming in from Pi to OCS. But you've got a lot of flexibility. If you're not using Pi to OCS, you can create your own data streams and shape them however you like. I'm going to bring up the data stream that comes in from OMF on that little device with all the different measurements. And this one, so there's some cryptic typing going on. But when we scroll down, you'll see the results of this data query. It's actually much more complex, so it's not just a timestamp and a value, but we've actually got a timestamp, and we've got a temperature, we've got humidity, light level. I think there's a sound level for some reason. There's 3 kinds of acceleration, and then 3 kinds of angular speed, which is important for a device that is bolted to the wall. But what we're looking at here, I think, is the humidity, which brings to another point, another new feature in OCS that we may not have seen in time series databases in the past. That you can actually index on multiple properties, not just on the timestamp, right? So if you're indexing on value, this particular one, I'm indexing on humidity. So that gives me the freedom to filter for things like find me when humidity in the building was over 33%, I think I looked here. I grew up in New Orleans, so 33% is not humid, but inside a building in California, a building that was built 2 years ago, you should probably not be over 33%. But I just picked that number because I found there was only 2 spikes in the last year when that actually occurred. And indexing on values like that makes it performant to actually make those really long queries. So jumping out of that, so getting data into Pi, this is that Pi to OCS, getting data out of Pi to OCS connection. But there's another way to get data easily into OCS, and that's through OMF connections. And so this is the configuration page for setting up an OMF connection. It's really straightforward to configure an endpoint. This is from an edge data store, actually. That data comes in through OMF. And I've actually got it fanned out to 2 different namespaces, development and staging, so that I can mess with it without breaking things that are going to be used for the conference. What we see here, I can configure where the data actually goes once it gets into OCS. And then I'm going to select the tab below that momentarily. And then we'll see, this is the connection information you need. So you'll need to create a client credential and generate those secrets and then roll them in a secure way. So now we're going to talk about identity real fast. I know we're moving really quickly. We've got these window panes, right? And we need people to come in and help us with, oh, did I just do that? Okay, so we're going to find out. Does anybody want to watch that entire video again? To tell some jokes. So by show of hands, who here shares data with a vendor outside of their organization? Maybe there's a pump manufacturer or something like that that needs is contractually obligated to have a look at how things are running, making sure you're not ramping things up wrong or whatever. So we get these windows that dim when the sun shines on them a lot, and then when the sun's down, they'll get really clear so you can see the bay and all that. Or sometimes they just dim randomly to mess with you when you're in meetings. So that person needs access to view data about how those equipment's actually running. Instead of us, how do you share your data? Do you give them a VPN connection so they can connect in directly? Do you create an account for them in Azure AD or in your corporate directory so they can log in with a contractor? Maybe it's con-vendor person at your company, and then delete that account later on. So what we can do here is actually invite them to join in and log into the system with their own identity provider, so we don't have to let them into our IT staff and let our IT staff create an account for them and then manage that, which is super weird. And we can also lock down these data streams to give them access to only a few of those things. And if I hadn't just reset the video, we would have seen that. But anyway, and if I vamp long enough, it'll come up eventually. But I will move on. We're in a beta program right now. Our goal is to release sometime at the end of next month or June-ish. I don't know. My product manager says June. I say May. Let's see who wins. We've got a whole set. The focus of our first release here is developer. It's partner developers and customers who don't mind writing a little code to get that data out of the system. So we encourage you to reach out. We've got a full set of code samples to get you started. So everything from how do you do this stuff in Python, .NET, Java. What else? We have Node.js and JavaScript, Angular. We've also got a really nice full-featured set of API documentation and an API console that you saw that allows you to drive and play around with the API and do some stuff, and even run some demos on stage. So that's kind of all I was going to say here. We have a more detailed talk where we'll go through and do some of this stuff live for like an hour at 10:30, but it's in a different building, so just follow me when this is over. If you want to learn more about PyOCS, you should definitely go see Janelle at 3:30. Are you in this room? No. She's somewhere. But with that, I'm going to bring up my colleague, Liz. So her team is on the threshold of a beta themselves. They're building out data science enablement on top of OCS. Let's hear for Liz.
Oh, God. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Chad. And I must apologize. I'm just not as funny as Chad, especially when I'm trying not to shake so much that I throw the remote at the people in the front seat. Sorry about that. But thank you for sitting there. So as Chad mentioned, I'm Liz, Elizabeth, Amaral, either one is fine, and I'm a strategic product manager here at OSIsoft, and I'm partially responsible for our direction around external integrations and advanced analytics, enabling those. So one of my things here today is that Chad, thankfully, and Janelle also gave you a really cool tour and introduction to what we've been doing with OSIsoft Cloud Services. And they really talked about the partner and developer enablement aspect of that, the first scenario that we're kind of targeting here. The next thing that we have coming down the line is around data science enablement. And Joy talked a little bit about this as well. This is a use case that we solved today with our Pi integrators. But we're also building some pretty cool functionality in OCS as well that's going to allow you to do some of this work as well. So there's obviously no shortage of data science interest from both our partner community and our customers. So that's one of the reasons that we're going down this path. And while we don't have any intention, OSIsoft at this point, for doing the data science machine learning ourselves, as a customer, we do want to be able to take advantage of some of those capabilities as well. So we've been able to start taking advantage and benefiting from one of our customers, or actually one of our partners, DER NetSoft, who's been participating and using OCS as part of the partner preview. And so they've created an advanced energy community to bring energy consumers and vendors together to really have more of a community perspective around usage and requirements, rather than just individual entities acting on their own, no sharing of data. that kind of thing. So for my presentation, I'm going to give you just a little peek into some of the work that they've done. They actually talked about this in more detail yesterday. So if you get a chance, I'd go review that talk, and you can see exactly how they did all of these things. One of the use cases that obviously excites me is around advanced analytics. So they've been using, DER NetSoft has been using machine learning to provide PV, solar, and energy sizing recommendations, and they're providing these back to us. In fact, these are some screenshots of their application built on top of OSIsoft Cloud Services. And we've got some different load profiles, and they're running a bunch of different what if scenarios and analytics for us, and then giving us back that data. And we can also compare our results with the rest of the community, what we're able to share. Earlier, you also heard how we're doing that securely. So obviously, we're not seeing anybody else's important information, but we are seeing some of the aggregates that we've all agreed to look at and share amongst each other. So we're also getting some peak demand forecasts back from them. They're utilizing weather data and weather forecast information along with energy utility data that they're collecting, and also the San Leandro Tech Campus information that we're providing to them as well. So how have they been doing all of this? Actually, they are the first users of a new service that we have been building in OSIsoft Cloud Services that allows you to create data views. What's a data view? It's a prepared data set that is ready for consumption with analytics. You probably hear some kind of similarities between this and Pi integrators. And I really just want to tease you enough so that you'll come to our talk later today. That's at 10:30 with Joy. We'll be talking about how both of these technologies can really help you in the realm of advanced analytics and how they can work together, really OCS extending the Pi system, not competing. So these data views, kind of like squares of data, and they're created and accessed programmatically. So you're actually querying OCS after you've defined this subset of data. It lives in OCS, and then you query it whenever you want to get the data set out. You can also change the time range as you're querying it if you just want to get the past day or the past 5 minutes. You don't actually have to go back into the system and change any of the configuration to do that. So DER NetSoft has been using these data views to actually provide the data to support the analytics that I showed you on the previous slides. And they're able to get the entire subset of data for each algorithm in a single API call back to OCS. And this actually helped them save a lot of time and resources while doing the data preparation. And you can actually normalize all of the different data sources that they have as well. They've got data from every 7.5 seconds all the way up to 15 minutes. So we're doing the normalization for them as part of the data view. So hopefully that's piqued your interest just enough that you'll either come to the product booth or, like I mentioned, Joy and I have the Insight Data Science Enablement product talk at 11:30, I believe, yes. And we'll be talking about Pi integrators and OCS. There's also, for developers out there, a very detailed presentation that one of our developers working on this and one of our data scientists is going to be giving later today. That's in the developer track. And they're going to actually show you how to create these data views programmatically and then how you can use them. So if you're interested, please come check us out. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Liz. So traditionally, we have our developer conference today, which is going on at Park 55. And to give you an update on what is happening there, I'd like to introduce Mike Sloves and Rick Davin to give you an overview of what's going on at Park 55 today.
Thank you, Chris. I'm not nearly as funny as Liz. There we go. So, as Chris said, my name is Mike Sloves. I'm the engineering department lead here at OSIsoft. And welcome to DevCon. Woohoo! There you go. This is by far my favorite day of the conference. The rest of the conference has been about the what. Today we get into the meat of it. We have the fun. Today we get into the how. You guys get to learn how to do a lot of the things that you've seen and heard us talking about all week. So last year I got up here and I made some kind of bold statements about DevCon. I said that we wanted to dedicate a team that would create meaningful and valuable content that you guys could leave here and actually go and implement and drive innovation for yourselves, your partners, and your customers. And last year, we had a little over 100 people who identified as developers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And this year, I was told that number is closer to 300. So give yourself a round of applause if you identify as a developer. It sounds like 200 and change, but okay, we'll go with that. So I've taken on a lot more responsibility here at OSIsoft in engineering, and I needed to focus on a lot of different things, and I needed to find someone that shared my vision and passion for the developer community that I still share to this day. Someone that I had confidence in and someone that I could hand over the reins to run DevCon and to continue on to build and grow this event into something that you guys find meaningful and valuable. And I'd like to bring to the stage OSIsoft's team lead for technology enablement, Rick Davin. Thank you, Rick. Hey, do you mind if I take the first 2 or 3 slides just for old time's sake? You sure? Go ahead. Okay. So, we are home sweet home back at the Park 55. We have the entire hotel dedicated to DevCon. So, all the developer and technical related talks, they're all over there. Follow chat across the street. We still have hands-on labs. We have something we introduced just this year called a dedicated Pi Geek Track. The Pi Geek Track is where you, as customers and partners, respond to our call for papers, and we invite you to give technical talks as a part of DevCon. So if you have any interest in getting up here on stage and sharing some cool stuff you've done with the Pi system, please. We want to hear from you, and we want you up on stage with us next year. We have these dedicated tech talks that we introduced last year. We called them live codings and how-to. Rick and the team have tweaked that a little bit, taken some lessons learned, renamed them as tech talks. And by the way, the talk that Gregg referred to earlier that was overflowing, that got flagged by the fire marshal, that was a developer talk. Yes. So we also have a dedicated security workshop happening all day over at the park. And there is a developer reception that Rick will ad nauseum remind you about throughout the presentation to come visit today at 4:30. We even started a lot of the content yesterday, so a lot of those tech talks and Pi Geek Tracks, they took place yesterday at the park as well. So again, if you're a developer, a data scientist, a business analyst, a security professional, an architect, or just a geek, come on over to the park. I promise we're going to have something for you. So, Rick, you ready? All right, take the reins, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. As Mike said, we introduced the Pi Geek Tracks again. That's where customers come to talk. We had big crowds for that. We do apologize for people we had to turn away. The tech talks are 90 minutes long, more so than the 45-minute talks that we're usually used to. There two things separate them from other talks. They're very technical and they're very in-depth. Some people say they're better than labs. They're half the time of a lab, but with just as much material. So, and again, all this is at the Park 55. Hard to believe we're on like slide 119, right? Only feels like 80. If you're a security professional, you probably want to park it all day in the security workshop. We also have the hands-on labs. These are the only things that aren't recorded. The tech talks and the developer presentations will be recorded. And so what has changed this year? Well, we wanted to really focus on replayability, recording these highly technical talks, which is, again, something we never did with a lab. We expanded this to 2 days, so we did start yesterday. You don't have a time machine, you can go back home next week and you can watch these. Again, Geek Track and the workshop. So we do have an award ceremony tonight where we give Pi Dev Club awards, but that will be at 5. Show up at 4:30. There will be beer and wine and other soft drinks. Mingle with your fellow developers, data scientists, security professionals. And besides the developer reception, there will also be Geek Night here at the Hilton, so it's worth the trip over. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike one last time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Quick quiz, what's happening at 4:30? Where is it? How many of you are going? Every hand better get raised. All right. So traditionally, I've always ended this talk with final words of wisdom, and this will be, I promise you, my final words of wisdom. And for those of you who have not done software development as a career, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of insight into the software development process. So even if you don't go to the talks over at the Park 55 today, you'll at least come out knowing something about how development works. So let's go through the life of a critical bug, maybe, that comes in through tech support. And as part of the development process, this is what a developer might go through when addressing such a problem. We start with, oh my God, I can't fix this. This didn't happen in testing. What's going on? So then we think, am I really doing this? So they have a crisis of confidence, followed by, why did I do this with my life? 4 years of school, a master's degree. I can't even fix a simple bug. Questions whether or not they even want to continue doing any of this and continue with life and family and just go and retire on a beach somewhere because it's all not worth it. Followed by, oh, just a typo. Cool. I think every developer in here can say, yeah, that's kind of how it works, right? All right, guys, enjoy the conference. Remember, everything over at the Park 55. Today's the how. Enjoy. Have a great conference.